I can never thank you enough for what you've just done.
If you just had a little bottle of... Sorry, my brother's a little rough around the edges.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to what I believe is pronounced Sang-Froid, a French term I think. The game was very recently greenlit and very unique. At first glance it either looks like a action beat 'em up or a tower defense. In reality though it's neither, or a weird hybrid of the two. The game takes place in two stages. The first stage is what you're seeing right now, the planning stage. In this stage you have an action bar at the bottom right of your screen. The action bar dictates how much you can do, how many actions you can take, and how many traps you can place. Each trap has a cost associated with it, whether it be action points or actual money. Alternatively, you can spend your time chopping wood for a lumber company. This takes away action points permanently, but does give you a lot of money. Planning is incredibly important in this game, especially when enemies are arriving from multiple directions at once. It does make it worthwhile to sort of delay them and keep them at bay for as long as possible until you can reach there to deal with them. The whole bunch of factors you have to consider when placing traps. You have to consider whether the enemy you're trying to beat is immune to the trap, whether they can go around it, parts they can take. You can block off parts to make them take the longer route and buy you some time. In the top right you can see the wind direction, and wind essentially blows your scent in the direction of the arrow, and any enemies down there will immediately detect you and come running. So it's definitely worth taking that into consideration, and you can lure enemies away from buildings and such. Buildings are essentially what you're trying to defend, and there are multiple buildings on the map, which makes it very hard to actually be everywhere at once. And while the enemies do come in waves, they often come from multiple directions at once, even in a single wave. While this does look like a tower defense, it would be a tower defense in the very loosest sense of the word. All the things you can place are either traps or things that help you deal with the monsters coming at you. They don't actually have any offensive value. Now you can see what's coming at you and the direction they're going to take, and this is tied in with the story. Your sister has been possessed essentially, and while you're protecting the house that she's in, she gets these visions telling her what's coming to attack the house later on in the night. Each level is a night, and newer and stronger monsters come at you each night. Alright, so I got ahead a bit. Here you can see the different kinds of weapons you can use, and this is the ability skill tree. It's your standard skill tree. You level up, you get more skills, so on and so forth. The weapons, however, are very interesting. You can buff them essentially. You can bless your hammer or axe, or you can get a silver axe, you can get silver bullets, you can bless the bullets in town, and this of course costs money, but is well worth it when you consider each enemy is vulnerable to a different kind of material or blessing. You can also buy consumables at town that definitely help, especially the healing potions. Well, that's essentially what they are.
The will-o'-the-wisp. That's why the doctor was talking about fireflies. Jack was right. He wasn't a flim-flam man. He's a wizard. Or worse.
Right, so while I don't think that the voice acting or graphical fidelity is the strong point of this game, I think those are the two places the game actually falls down a little bit, and graphical fidelity is not really that important. However, the voice acting I feel to be a little bit lacking, especially when there's such a heavy focus on story. I think the planning and the combat are the two strong points of this game, and they're very fun to do. Combat wise, you can click to swing your axe, and then once you've built up enough rage after hitting the enemy a couple of times, you can right click to do a heavy attack. You can hold control to bring out your rifle and hit an enemy. There's a bit of auto targeting involved, but it's not too heavy. You still have to aim a bit. You can right click to reload, and the faster you right click, the faster it reloads. And you don't really rely on your rifle too much unless it's loaded with the holy bullet to do heavy damage to one of the big enemies. Because once enemies are all surrounding you, you don't really have time. Unless, of course, your fear factor is up, and this is where the depth really comes in, and it's definitely to do with fear factor and wind manipulation, as well as sound and detection. There's a number in the bottom right next to your portrait, and that's the fear factor. When there are loads of enemies on the screen, like loads of wolves, they surround you rather than attacking. If your fear factor is higher than theirs, and they'll show you a little number, and if the number gets closer, yeah, right now you can see he has a really high fear factor. It's 25 compared to my 20. You can lower their fear factor by shouting, and this sends them away, and they sort of circle strafe you and slowly build up their fear factor, and eventually they stop being afraid of you and will attack. and you can use this drive to basically plan your attack and take out the ones that are about to attack you, or even reload your rifle if you've upgraded your reload speed and your damage with your rifle. You can even do things such as shouting. Shouting, while it also lowers fear factor, it also notifies enemies in quite a wide range of your position, and they'll all start running towards you. They'll actually start running towards the spot where you last shouted, so you could place a net trap between the trees and then shout under it. Run a bit further away and wait until the enemies come under the trap to look at the spot that you shouted at last, and once they're under the trap you can shoot it and it'll drop down and kill them. And this is just one of the ways you can manipulate your enemies, and it's definitely interesting and definitely deserves a lot of planning and care. One thing I didn't like about the game is how it has a very extended tutorial and there's no way to skip it. Say I beat the game and I want to play it again on harder difficulty, I'll still have to play through all the bits in the start and go through all the pop-ups and stuff that show me how to shoot and how to fight and how to deal with enemies. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to check out the description below. Hope you gave you a nice idea what the game is about. See you around next time.